What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
His favorite blade Gurren became a black glow, the ominous haze of heat that now represented his power. This was a symbol for something that could not be burned, frozen, or cut open, as well as a physical representation of something that was completely impossible to hit. That, and it had another meaning: sunlight, a superheated flame. Benimaru's swordsmanship was added to this magical flame, and he had no idea how powerful that made him. Granit, for one, had lived up to his God of War moniker. After a brief moment of shock, he quickly calmed down and began searching for his adversary's weak spots. Benimaru now possessed much fewer magicules, which was a possible side effect of gaining an ultimate skill. He remained a force against which a conventional demon lord would be helpless, although his magic level was only roughly a third of Granit's. This unknown new power posed a threat, but he believed that another full-throated strike could defeat it.
"Don't mess with me, monster,"
he exclaimed.
"Next time, I'm not going to hold back. You're about to experience the full force of my power."
Granit's brute strength in the Imperial Army was second only to Velgryn's. Even stronger than Damrata, he may have matched Kondu in strength. That was still true today. But there was a reason he was tasked with protecting Rudra. He simply never had the opportunity to become completely engaged in battle. He was now summoning all of his power to crush Benimaru.
"Die, Army Destroyer, Quaking Blast."
It used the same strategy as before, but on a much higher level. A rage erupted from him, releasing lightning bolts into the air. Benimaru was not harmed by them, nevertheless. Nothing was able to capture the heat haze. A roar could be heard. Something had happened in another realm, not this one.
"Carrera, you're a jerk, with all the dreadful things to do."
Benimaru's thoughts were filled with vivid visions of what Carrera had done. He didn't have to go through moss to get it. He was able to see anything his servants could see after obtaining Amaterasu, Lord of Shimmering Flame, as long as they were linked to Rimuru by a soul corridor. It gave him a clear image of Carrera's abilities.
"Let me show you something very unique. I've only recently seen it, but let's give it a shot."
"What?"
Granit was speechless. Benimaru's assault had merely slashed him into tiny pieces that were burnt by the time they touched the ground. Benimaru was possibly the most terrible of all. He moved as if he were a haze off a heated road. The skill Dominate Heat, inherited from Velgryn's own skills, was included in Amaterasu, which accelerated his body. He could use it to unleash a sword slash at genuinely divine speed. Although it didn't quite reach cardinal acceleration levels, it was an unbeatable skill, powerful and swift.
It is known as Crestwater Dark Flame 100 Flower Bloom. Not that you'd want to hear it, but...
Benimaru turned away, a renewed expression on his face, after that side comment. Granit was extremely powerful, calculating, well-prepared, and in peak combat form. In a nutshell, his defeat was the result of bad luck. If he made any mistake, it was in failing to act quickly enough to strike the adversary while they were still vulnerable. In his mind, Benimaru determined not to repeat Granit's mistake. Velgrynd was becoming worried. She should have been on the lookout for the Demon Lord Rimuru all along. He had devoured her split body, and she was now unable to interact with it. She was unable to receive any feedback from her thoughts because they were lost in the abyss. Even transferring energy to her other body seemed like throwing it into a bottomless marsh. There was simply no point to it. The true dragon bit her lip. She had lost around half of her overall energy and there was no possibility of recovery. It was difficult for her to keep her cool after witnessing her seemingly unbeatable parallel existence be defeated in this manner. She only had about 20% of her magicules compared to her full health. It was now impossible, in her opinion, to overcome Rimuru, and she was compelled to determine that abandoning the scene as quickly as possible was her best option.
"Rudra, I can't put him in danger."
As a result, she chose to leave the gate she was guarding. She guessed that it was fortunate for her that nobody had attacked her yet because she didn't have to think twice about leaving the gate. If someone got in her path, she could simply deal with them. She did see a few individuals in the room with the 8 gates.
"Oh, Lady Velgrynd, why are you leaving so quickly? Did you forget something?"
Testarossa posed the inquiry, relaxed and sipping tea as if she owned the area.
Blanc.
As Velgrynd glared at her, Testarossa's smile widened. She was in such a rush, it was a big annoyance to have to face this unpleasant foe.
"I asked you to refrain from calling me that, didn't I?"
Testarossa stated with an elegant smile.
"Or are you attempting to provoke me?"
Her eyes had stopped beaming. Velgrynd was still far superior to her, but she wasn't about to back down.
"You still want to go with me after I gave you such a brutal beating?"
"Yes, I would be delighted to. After all, I'm not in it to win." The situation will be fine if I can gain some time against you.
As she spoke, Testarossa rose up. She was instantly greeted by Velgrynd with her fist. The shock wave smashed the table and chairs, forcing Esprit and Zonda to flee a safe distance away. She was now lightly dancing on the ground. Velgrynd's heat was so fierce that even touching her would turn her to cinders, and her speed was so fast that you couldn't see her with your eyes. It was a tremendous assault, and there was no reason to try to take it on. It wasn't only an issue of skill. Even if her tank was only approximately 20% full, Velgrynd had nearly 10 times as many magicules as Testarossa. That was the size of the gap. Despite this, Testarossa appeared to be as comfortable as ever. There wasn't exactly a way to defeat her, so winning would be challenging. But stalling for time without pursuing a triumph wasn't a problem for her.
This is why I despise you so much.
Oh, that's too bad. As Sir Veldora's elder sister, I have nothing but respect for you.
Stop being so brazen about it. Get out of my way and stop pestering me.
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'll have to decline that request. I may not appear to be one, but I'm a bitter loser, so I'm going to get even with you right now.
Testarossa fully believed it. She couldn't beat Velgrynd in a straight fight, but harassing her was much simpler. It was likely that Rimuru would arrive shortly, even if she couldn't hold out until the other officers arrived. Her win was all but certain at that moment.
Oh, what a magnificent spectacle Sir Rimuru's victory was.
It was like taking candy from a baby for him to overwhelm Lady Velgrynd.
It's now my turn.
Testarossa had learned much about Velgrynd's weaponry thanks to Rimuru. By any means necessary, she didn't want to let this chance pass her by. In the air, red and white streaks crossed paths. One was severe and intense, while the other was graceful and elegant. They faced off against each other, with no touch having been made, as the two-colored pattern whirled itself around the chamber with terrifying speed.
That's insane. You're not the same person you used to be.
I suppose I am. I was astonished as well, but I, too, have gained an ultimate skill. That must be the reason.
Casually, as if it weren't a big deal, Testarossa announced the information. She had used her waiting time to wish for a new power, and as a result, she had materialized the precise shape of her mind. She felt she heard a weird voice, but dismissed it as her imagination. This was all done instinctively. It was how the demon Testarossa always worked. But it was the name of the ultimate skill, Belial, Lord of the Underworld, that piqued her interest. It exercised control over both life and death, much like Asmodeus, ruler of lust, a skill of Luminous. Although Belial's inclination was more toward death because it was Testarossa's nature, she regarded defeat as a shame she could never admit to, and death's defeat was no exception. If a demon desired to evolve, they had to amass enough power to reach their present limit, then age for at least 2,000 years. That meant that even a single defeat was unforgivable, but when it came to death, defeat meant annihilation, the loss of one's body, and re-entry into hell. It's true that a draw doesn't technically constitute a defeat, but things are different when an opponent is running from a fight. A spiritual life form is easily swayed by its own thoughts, and admitting it can't beat its opponents and ceasing to resist is considered a defeat. There were a few truly insane demons out there, Diablo being one of them, who had unblemished histories, but they were few and far between. Testarossa was able to count them with one hand. But the only thing that mattered was that your heart was never broken. As long as you keep going until you succeed, it never counts as defeat, which is why Testarossa never stopped confronting Zijin. And the same thing happened here. Testarossa reasoned that if she didn't flee Velgrynd, she would eventually defeat her.
You've attained an ultimate skill?
Yes. Partly because I was tired of Diablo's boasting, but mostly because I realized how weak I was in our previous combat. I reasoned that if a skill embodies who I am at my core, I wouldn't actually need any. But that appears to be rather shallow reasoning. Perhaps because I was able to confront my own desires. I feel like I've improved the way I use my abilities now.
Velgrynd understood what Testarossa meant given her control of Regule, Lord of Relief. That was why she was having such difficulty getting out of this chamber.
This is so frustrating.
Testarossa laughed at this mumbled complaint.
I couldn't have asked for a better compliment.
Just as that remark heightened Velgrynd's fury, there was a great explosion, one so powerful that it twisted space itself. It brought Velgrynd back to reality. She turned around and seemed astonished. One of the gates had been blasted aside spectacularly, and the blonde-haired Carrera could be seen from behind it. She, by the way, was responsible for many of the actions that earned Leon a terrible reputation, but that's unimportant right now.
Hello there. Looks like I'm right on time, eh? I'm not a huge fan of always losing, so I'm hoping you'll let me join in.
Carrera, don't start. I'm not trying to be cruel, but you're covered in wounds.
Well, that Kondo guy sure was strong, huh? but I'm satisfied for the time being, so that's fine. I'll let it slip for now.
Carrera laughed despite her obvious difficulty standing. Esprit rushed up to provide her a shoulder, while Zonda invited her to sit in a chair he had prepared for her. Agera was also present, but he received no attention.
If you're going to put up with it, Carrera, I guess I'll stop being so selfish as well. This time, I'll just watch from a distance as I'm a little worn out.
Ultima had appeared out of nowhere next to Carrera, with Veyron quickly setting out a chair for her. The demons were multiplying, and they weren't alone now that Xian, Zoe, and Benimaru appeared from their gates. Velgrynd winced at the sight. She knew that every powerful force on her side had been defeated. As a result, Testarossa had a tactical triumph. And Rudra and Velgryn's dreams were about to be shattered. Switching viewpoints from above to below, the battlefield was experiencing an abrupt and quick cooldown. Vega was following Laplace as he ran toward Kigali. The forbidden curse dead birthday had long since stopped working, or, more precisely, Kigali had lost control of it when Velgrynd stopped assisting her. Nobody knew how many Walking Dead the spell created, but they wouldn't be active for a long time. These Walking Dead might be powerful fighters from the time they were created if they had the appropriate will inside their minds. Before anybody else could, it was crucial that they take control of them, and if Laplace believed this, he certainly couldn't be the only one. It was impossible for Lieutenant Kondu to be unaware that he had directed this right.
I had a feeling he was up to something.
By the time Laplace arrived, a squad of Imperial officials had begun loading Kigali and her party into a military truck.
Oh, you were Laplace? I heard you were rather powerful. Do you believe a fight is unavoidable here?
A friendly-looking man in a different colored uniform approached him. Lieutenant Kondu cut quite a figure in his white uniform, but this man's bright red suit was out of this world. He didn't appear to be particularly strong. His face appeared weirdly false, like a doll, and he could have been either male or female. He was far too ordinary looking to make an impact if it weren't for that dazzling uniform, but perhaps that just made everything else about him appear simple in comparison.
Yeah.
Laplace said as he considered this.
I'm Laplace. I don't think we need to fight anymore if you guys let that girl go back, do we?
That seems unlikely to me. See? There's a brawl going on over there right now. I can't simply leave here.
The man was ready. Laplace took a fighting position since he had no other choice.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Chad Vota, Chris Guzman, Havox, Speed Saber, James Waters, Arijit Das, Curtis Loban, Judah Herrera, Justa Guy, Misael W. Hernandez, Jason Martin, Zach Rossan, Jarius Ladek, Stone Larone, Alfonso Smith, Donald Williams, Moab A, Day of Light, John M, John Charles, Godman Gaming, Markithian Tidwell, Andre L. Hamilton, Adrian, Kumo, Sanketh Chelu, T. Bush, John L, Edgar Fuentes, JV, Dirty Old Hobo, Thomas, J, Christ, Juan Ignacio, Joshua Cousins, Jose Hernandez, Vethelny, Lunel Scarlett, Khalid, Christian Deshazer, Cal Robs, Divine C. Harris, Panda Cats, Aaron Alarcon, DeAndre Nance, Monty Boy 98, D-Man, Ruben, Luis Caro, Yuki Iki, Pedro Robles, Chris Jr., Isaac, Koala King 93, Paul DeGrassi, Little 95, Coyote de Peza, Quilly Buckner, Zephyras, Alver, Normal Defate, Joshua Andrade, L, Gary Miles, Nobody 0034, Dragon Spawn 666, J Rule, Sayonori, Alfredo Renteria, Liel Tiram, Liron Sangkap, Eric Tass, Christopher Mash, Ekotski, Foolish Prophets, Ethan Madison, Louis Strutter, Charles Bailey, Sky T, Diego Ginoza, Nick H, Andre Hamilton, Jason Torres, Sesh, Guy Ansley, Simon Road, Emperor WSA, Mika Espinosa, George Hage, Pratik Bandari, Deriha Skerte, Jackson Early, Carl Stephen Bernadal, Tank Bailey, Gareth Hashimoto, Steven Madison, Homelike Drop, Nasir, Mam Wang Min, Vasto Lord, Martin Ramos, Marl Barsha, Hansel Ortega, Efrain Hernandez, Luca Gaming WTF, William Locke, Bismarck Munoz, Arayan Booker, Kamal Luke, Izat, Wei Jun, Alvin Quarty, Chris Kaalim, Q Sang, Steven, TNN, Nicholas Badal, Dijo. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.